The New York Rangers have made multiple surprising moves, including a few new hirings to Chris Drury's staff. We're going to break that down, as well as multiple updates as it pertains to the New York Rangers staff and a familiar face that's making his return to Broadway. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button, as 77% of you who are watching these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your New York Rangers, this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content, because this channel is built for blue shirt fandom. So Bret, let's jump right into it. We have some moves, actual moves to talk about. The summer is coming to an end. The season is actually here, and the Rangers have made some hirings, and not only front office hirings, but some other hirings that I think are very interesting, because we were questioning exactly this earlier this summer. So it's going to be nice to tie it up in a nice bow, but we'll get to that in just a second. The Rangers have made some changes to their hockey operations staff, and one of the updates and one of the hirings I'm really happy about, because I think it has major implications for the AHL and the Hartford Wolfpack as well. But as you can see here, the Rangers have made some hirings. Ryan Martin has been promoted to associate general manager and will continue his role as the general manager of the Hartford Wolfpack, which I think is very interesting. We'll get to that in a bit. Jim Sullivan has been promoted to assistant general manager. Ryan Clough, who used to be with the organization, has been named assistant general manager. He just left his position with the San Jose Sharks. A lot of people are wondering why that happened. He is now the assistant general manager of the New York Rangers. And lastly, a familiar face from just a couple seasons ago, Blake Wheeler, has been named hockey operations advisor, which I also like this move because, we've been talking about the Rangers and this disconnect between hockey operations and obviously when they draft really good players, they're not able to develop them. So there's been some changes here. I like a couple of them. Bret, what do you make of some of the moves? I really like the Ryan Martin move, because I feel like this really connects the NHL. They already were, but obviously Hartford hasn't been ranked very highly in terms of developmental systems. I think this is a really good thing for, not stunting development, making sure players are developing, and just having that direct line of communication between both clubs at this point.
Yeah, Darius, the Martin hire actually is a very fascinating one because, you look at this guy and there are a lot of people around the league that truly believe he could be an NHL GM, be a general manager one
Yeah.
day. So the Rangers are promoting him. They will be giving him more money and, they want to keep him. It's clear that the Rangers want to keep Ryan Martin around. They want to keep him very connected to the AHL with the Hartford Wolfpack. And I would not be surprised in the next few years if we see Ryan Martin legitimately get considered for an NHL opening, for general manager. Now, there are two other moves here that really intrigue me as well. I'm going to save the best for last, but starting with the next one, Ryan Clough. Ryan Clough is an interesting, very interesting hire for me because we know he was with the San Jose Sharks for just one season, and he's done some good things over there. A lot of people were surprised that he's leaving San Jose in a lateral move, keeping the same position
Yep.
to go to a different organization. So there's obviously some connection there. There's obviously strong connection with the Rangers. We know he spent a season in New York, but I like what he did in San Jose. Obviously, you look at who they drafted most recently. Macklin Celebrini is a stud. He's going to be a star. Already is a star in the NHL, but he's going to be a very, big player in this league for years to come. You also look at their new head coaching hire in San Jose. So they've done a lot of good things over there to turn their fortunes around. So Ryan Clough, very interesting hire. Also cool that he was with the Rangers. But Blake Wheeler is an extremely, I'm really excited about this one because this guy was a tremendous NHL player, spent some time with the Rangers, only 1 year, but he was part of that President's Trophy run. We know what he was capable of doing in his prime, but what I really like about Blake Wheeler is he brings that grit, that the Rangers are trying to add on the ice, but now they're adding it off the ice. This is a guy that was a big physical presence on the ice. He was also, a producer as well, not just big and physical, but the Rangers want to be bigger and tougher to play against. I like that they're adding those outside voices to Chris Drury's staff. He has more people to listen to now. And when I think of Chris Drury, I think he's shrewd. I think he's rigid. Adding these voices from the outside I believe is going to help him collaborate and make better decisions moving forward.
And I would agree with that as well. I do think that, Chris Drury is exactly that way, and adding some more voices to the room will be really good. And I think that some of the voices that they're adding are great. A lot of people are talking about how Martin, Sullivan, they're getting bumped up, and they've been Drury's go-to guys for the last couple of years. Now they're going to be working closer together. Clo, like you mentioned, like a lot of people were very surprised that he left this position with the Sharks. He did some really, really good stuff last year. The Sharks are well on their way to being like, that's what you want to model your rebuild after. The San Jose Sharks of right now, right? They're doing some great things over there, and they're going to be back to being competitive very quickly. But from Bald Panarin as well, Drury needs some more voices in the room when they're making decisions, right? And some people to say, hey, you know what, let's thinking about it this way instead. And I think Blake Wheeler being in there as well as a player, having that from a player's perspective is really good. And one thing that I want your thoughts on as well, Bret, before we move on to some other moves is, one thing that's been a pleasant surprise this offseason is how quiet things have been. There was so much drama last offseason, right? Things have been very quiet. And I think keeping it that way, obviously into the future, is going to be a recipe for success. But I think having multiple voices around Chris Drury to help make decisions, obviously they're not going to make the decisions on their own, but they're going to have their input. But having a former player that played for the New York Rangers, I know it was only one season, right? But having a former player in there, being able to tell Chris Drury, hey, maybe you shouldn't, say things this way because it could, kind of frustrate the group a little bit, I think is going to be really, really good for this organization moving forward. And I think Chris Drury, what this is showing to me is taking steps forward to become a better general manager, which, you know what, I think anyone can look at that and appreciate, right? What are your thoughts on that? Because I think that's kind of what we're seeing here right now, that Chris Drury is trying to put his best foot forward to try and be the best general manager possible for this team.
Darius, it is absolutely refreshing that the Rangers have, things have been so quiet around here this summer. And, we saw what happened last summer. We saw the effect that it had on the team last season, but it has been nice that things have been quiet, that players have been training, they've been working hard. There hasn't been any toxic noise. And Chris Drury really did learn his lesson last year. I believe bringing in a coach like Mike Sullivan has helped him. A guy that has proven to be a leader of men, a guy that has proven that he can win multiple Stanley Cup championships, excuse me. So we know that he knows how to command a room. I believe his relationship, Mike Sullivan with Chris Drury, has helped Drury, but not only Drury. I believe Drury will also rub off on Sullivan as well. That's what you want in a successful partnership. But I'm excited about these moves. And I believe that, you mentioned San Jose, you want to model, your game and your rebuild off a franchise like that because of what they've been able to do as of late. And I think the Rangers are really heading in the right direction here, Darius, connecting the AHL to the NHL, not be able to develop these players, draft the right type of talent, but not be able to develop them. I believe things will change here for the Rangers, and I'm excited for the season.
Absolutely. I'm excited for the season to start. I think they're heading in the right direction, and I like a lot of these moves. And I think a lot of fans and fan pages, like the moves as well. Now, another move that they made very quickly here before we wrap up is a couple moves, I should say, is they've added to their scouting department, which we questioned earlier this summer because it was shrinking, and we were like, hey, what's going on here? Obviously, they have to add some bodies here, and they've done exactly that. So a few other new hires, and shout out to Vince Mercogliano for this as well. Chris Pryor, Mark Flood, and Daryl Williams. The last two, Mark and Daryl, they're pro scouts. Chris is an NCAA and CHL scout. So obviously we knew that they needed to add to their pro scouting, their amateur scouting as well. And I think that they've done that. And obviously, working with prospects, that's always been a problem for the New York Rangers, but that's pretty good. And then they get added to this group who were already here. So we get our answer there. We were talking about that earlier this summer. So we got our answer, Bret. Any final thoughts on this? The Rangers there's been a day of moves, finally some news to talk about. And, this is very exciting because these guys can get to work right away. And the prospects are going to be reporting to, obviously, rookie showcases. We're going to have the guys reporting to training camp soon. It's going to be very exciting here coming up.
Yeah, well, my final thoughts, Darius, are that, something had to change clearly because the Rangers found themselves in a fortunate position the last few seasons. Let's not forget when the Rangers announced the rebuild not too long ago, they tried going through that process and then sort of went off course signing Panarin in 2019. But they got very fortunate landing the number 1 pick, landing the number 2 overall pick in back-to-back seasons. They drafted talented players, Darius. That was not the problem. But they were never, or at least have not been able yet to reach their full potential. Lafreniere was a can't-miss prospect. Capo Caco, he's not with the Rangers anymore. He's with Seattle and just got paid big money. So they have not lived up to their potential. We've seen a couple homegrown Rangers, but these are more late round picks. We want these first round picks like the Brennan Othmans of the world, like the Gabe Perreaults of the world to really blow up and help our franchise, not only right now, but moving forward. So something had to change. They brought in a bunch of scouts. They changed, their front office structure, and hopefully more voices in the room, more knowledge in the room will help the Rangers not only now, but their developmental program for the future, which will set us up for sustainable success. And I'm excited about that, Darius.
Absolutely. I think this is a good day for Rangers fans, and a lot of people should be very happy about some of these moves, and not just the moves themselves, but what it signals. And I think what it signals is Chris Drury's trying to take steps forward in the right places that a lot of Rangers fans are kind of shouting from the rooftops saying, hey, we need fundamental change in these places, not just like who we're drafting, right? It's like, no, we need to actually try and develop these players. What are the processes we can put in place to kind of work towards that? And I feel like Drury's trying to do that, and also trying to get better at communication while still keeping things quiet during the summer, which I appreciate, because last summer was a bit crazy. But let us know how you feel in the comments. We want to hear what you have to say. The conversation always continues down in the comments, as well as on X. You can find us on X. The link is in the description, but let us know how you feel down there in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.